Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. Thank you for wanting to watch a cinematic corporate film. I did this again last week where I posted a cinematic fitness film, and if you haven't watched that, you should watch it. It's really good. But thanks for watching this. It was primarily filmed with the Sony FX6, and the gimbal shots in this film were on the Sony FX3. So again, I really appreciate you just being here and taking the time to watch this. This was a really emotional film for me and something that meant a lot to make. So I hope you enjoy it.
I wasn't ready for them to know what I was going through because I had to project an image. But in that time, I think I had lost who I was and I was going through the motions. But I continued to press forward, saying I need to find a way to connect. I manage a service support operations for North America and Latin America for a large Fortune 50 company. And I got into this job. It happened to be right during the time of the pandemic starting. But I'd never got to meet these individuals. And I was coming into this role with a vision of what I wanted it to be and what I thought I needed to show to them. But because everything was virtual, I was finding myself really struggling. And I remember meeting with a staffing management company, Insight Global, and they introduced me to this program called Compass. And I said, if there's anything I could do, is I wanted to connect with the leaders of the group. And so I put together a plan and brought that entire team in. When we went through the program, we had to answer some fundamental questions.
What gets me out of bed in the morning is very similar to what I've been hearing around the room. Is I also have that strong desire to improve, not only myself, but helping others succeed. I get validation and reward and motivation when I see others actually achieve their goals.
I thought this is a big gamble because I was still very guarded. One of the exercises that we ended up going through was talking about a low in our lives.
So we go back to the circle, we all sit down, and like I said, leaders start, they set the tone. And so Spencer was up. He couldn't formulate words.
Did I trust myself? Did I trust the people in the room?
And one of his leaders, actually from Mexico, raised his hand. He's like, I'll go. I got you. So he raised his hand and he shares this really vulnerable story about what he, experienced through COVID and his employees. And then it went down the line, around the circle. So when it got to Spencer, it was like he got the courage because of the people around him.
Instead of starting with me, it ended with me. In 2019, it was my daughter was a sophomore in high school, and we just had she just gone to her homecoming. She was homecoming queen, and she was into sports and everything else. I went through the holidays, and on January 3rd, I get a call. There's been a serious accident. Rushed over there. She was in a car with 7 kids. They at 126 miles an hour. They went off into a grove of trees. Miraculously, they all lived, but my daughter was life-flighted. She had shattered her back, had a head trauma. It was a very, very ugly situation. My wife and I were having some challenges at that time in our lives, and we wanted to get back to Boise where our families were. A job opportunity came up. We moved to Boise, but the bottom line is I ended up taking this job hoping that it was going to bring my family back together. And when I was flying out to Atlanta here to to meet my team for the first time, I received a call from my wife explaining some rather dire circumstances and some choices that were made, and she said that she would not be joining me in Idaho. I went through all of that, and there was a gentleman by the name of Chris. I'll never forget. He stood up and he said, "We've been hard on you in this role. We had no idea that you were having to go through all of this. You've been there for us. It's now our turn to be there for you." And he came up and gave me a big hug.
And everyone in that moment, this was not rehearsed, stood up at the same time, went into the center of the room, and gave Spencer a huge hug. And it was just this like powerful moment in time that I will never forget for the rest of my life.
That day, I actually truly connected with people that I never thought I would connect with. We turned that moment into an action, and that action now has momentum, and most importantly, it has commitment.
To be vulnerable is to be brave, and it's the opposite of wearing the cape, but I actually think that's when you're really the superhero, is when you can do that.
I think what this whole program has done for me is it actually helped me to realize that it's okay for me to show up as my authentic self, that I don't have to put on that mask. Now let's go see what we can do and accomplish.
So I hope you enjoyed that corporate film. It was a really emotional thing to make and had a lot of meaning to me. It means a lot to me to be authentic, and this was just such an awesome example to see authenticity in a corporate setting. And I hope that maybe you took something from this video as well. And if you did, please leave a comment below, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. It would mean a lot to me, and really appreciate you all. Peace.